Gentlemen, we're going to assume that this is my trial tape to see how this all goes, see what it looks like, see what kind of changes I need to make, and I'm using you guys for my dummies to help kind of determine what that looks like. As you guys know, we're going to try to make a little show we call Bullets and Bourbon. Probably be more bullets than bourbon, but really the show is more about the American way of life and how the six of us support the Founding Fathers' ideas. Obviously, the Second Amendment and guns are a big part of that, but they really are, guns are really more of a an ideal in some ways that speaks to the American way of life. Obviously, they have a very practical purpose. I know a lot of us talk about our right to keep and bear arms as it relates to defending ourselves and our families, hunting and sporting, but really that was never what the Founding Fathers cared about. It was really all about how we maintain the ability to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. Now that doesn't play very well in a lot of the media today, but that was the ideal. The reality is we've never needed it more than we need it now. Government continues to encroach on every walk of life, and the Second Amendment is the only thing that keeps them from bulldozing us in a lot of ways. But we're going to get on with a little experiment here into the reloading world. What we got here is 25 cases already prepped and primed. Probably can't see that. One of the things that I definitely will have to upgrade is the camera. I'm doing this on my phone. What you see here is a basic RCBS Rock Chucker Supreme kit. The only real exception to that is I do have a Lyman Turbo 1200 that I'm using for my tumbler. Everything else is pretty much stuff in the kit. Now there are some little extras that I picked up, some powder scoops and stuff like that, but by and large what I've used to make my first 25 cases or first 25 cartridges is this RCB Rock Chucker Supreme starter kit. For Christmas I got 2 sets of dies, 9mm and 308. We're loading up with some unique powder. It seemed to be a very safe powder, almost impossible, if not impossible, to double charge a case, therefore, avoiding some possible rookie mistakes. I'm using CCI 500 primers, small pistol primers. The first 25 I made, which I know is probably not enough for a scientific sampling, it all went bang. Everything came out of the barrel, and I've started very conservatively. A friend of mine, Scott, who's really helping me along the way, has been instrumental in the little bit that I've learned. Obviously, like everybody else, I've YouTubed the shit out of this, and I've kind of set this up a little bit like Johnny's Reloading Room, one of my favorite YouTubers from the reloading world, and got it looking pretty satisfactory for me. I built this bench. It's 7 feet by 34 inches. It's set at 36 inches. This actually is my office, my home office also, and I get dual use out of this chair, where I actually earn some of my livings over here behind me, but we won't be looking at that because nobody gives a damn. But we're gonna start right now with my next loading. The first 5 I went very conservative with the powder. I went with 4.2 grains of unique, which is the Lyman loading data for 24 grain hollow point. That was their opening load, actually their opening loading was 4 grains with a maximum charge of 4.5 grains. I chose to start off at 4.2 grains with the help of Scott's kind of schooling there. Had no issues with that. They all went bang, but the recoil and the report were both very light. So I had 20 more pieces of brass already prepped. So I loaded those up with 4.4 grains of the same unique powder, something I'll be sticking with for a while till I really get comfortable. Everybody seems to like it. It's solid, and I'll have to really gain some confidence before we move on to some other powders, at least with respect to 9mm. I've got 25 more pieces here. They're already primed. You can see my little RCBS beam scale. I know a lot of people probably prefer digital scale, but I work in a kind of a technical field, and one of the things that has always served me well is if you learn the principles with analog style equipment, this is kind of analogous to analog equipment, and you understand the theory, those technicians that understood the theoretical aspects of what I do have always seemed to make better technicians. I'm hoping that applies here because, frankly, I've made 25 rounds that all were somewhat successful, but I am no reloader by anybody's stretch of the imagination. And one thing that will be consistent throughout any videos that I make is that I'm no expert at most anything that we'll be talking about. I have some very definite opinions about things, and that's a lot of what this is. Some of the opinions that you will hear have been filtered through a group of friends of mine that I hold very near and dear. The 6 of us speak every day, some portion of us. And I guess it might be said that we at least feel like we're watchdogs for the nation. We keep each other abreast of what's going on around the nation because we're spread out all over the country. We're from very diverse walks of life, very different experiences in life, and we seem to be a good barometer of what's going on around the country. And that being said, we're going to load up a few rounds and see how this whole video process goes, and see if it has any value for anybody other than the 6 of us. And if it doesn't, then we'll just call it therapy for the 6 of us, and that'll be enough. But for now, I'm going to focus on that, sign this off, and see how you guys like it.